think the key is efficiency. Yeah, and whatever allows us the opportunity to be the most efficient. There's times where, you know, we wanna line up quickly and get on the ball and play, but you also wanna make sure you're running sound plays. And there's a lot that we could get into about what schematically gives you the best opportunity and chance, and whether coordinators can look at your formations and then make their calls to the defense. You know, getting everybody into a huddle, communicating, and getting everybody on the same page, allowing your quarterback to talk about the alerts, 2 plays. There's just a lot of things that can come into play when you're in the huddle. So, you know, to us, it's about efficiency. If we need to speed up the game, we will, but it's to me, it's all about how efficient we are with our plays where you think the ball may go one place, but if a defense, you know, is designed to stop that area or that player or that, you know, area of the formation or area of the field or whatever it might be, then the ball needs to go somewhere else. I think that's what's, you know, challenging for a receiver to, you know, again, I say that, and it's, you know, whether Jeremiah gets the statistics that he would need to get into the Heisman race or not, it's sort of out of his hands, because there's just certain things that can happen that are out of his control. So that doesn't change who he is in terms of a player, his impact on the game, or anything like that. So, you know, we have to make sure that we're figuring out as many ways as we can to get him the ball, knowing that that's not the number one most important thing. The most important thing is to move the ball and score points and be efficient. So, but that's why I mentioned that after the game. You know, Carnell has done a lot of the dirty work that's allowed, you know, some of the other guys on offense to have success, and then vice versa. You know, Jeremiah, you know, dictates coverage, or as a decoy on a play to open up something for Carnell. That's winning football, and that's going to be the key moving forward. And I think you're seeing, you know, guys like Max and our running backs really starting to take strides forward now to make an impact. And we just want to make sure when we go into a game that, you know, based on what the defense is giving us, that we can attack in that area. When you lose that balance, that's when you put yourself at risk. So whether it's in personnel groupings, running, throwing, styles of play, we always want to make sure we're on the back and forth early. I thought Jaden really pulled away towards the end of camp. You know, we'll go off what we see in practice, but it's good to know that you have 2 kickers that are capable. Well, I think every situation is different and every quarterback is different. But at the end of the day, the player has to put it on the field. And you're seeing Julian grow each week. I think you're seeing his teammates believe in him more and more. He's taking more and more command. I think he understands, and it's important for any quarterback to understand what he's surrounded by on both sides of the ball, all 3 phases, and know, you know, what we need to do to win the game. And if we can continue to do that, then we're going to, you know, have a chance to reach our goals this season. But this is going to be another challenge for him on the road, second road game, another really difficult environment. You know, to me, this is like a top 10 opponent on the road, and you know, he's got to play really, really well. So this is the next step in the progression. And to say this was the most ideal start for a quarterback, you know, at the time, number 1, Texas first game of the year on the road against a team that was 22 straight games winning at home. That's probably not how I would start it. But to your point, having a strong running game, having a good defense, and you know, not being put into positions where he has to come from behind early in his career is good. But you know, that's going to happen at some point. We're going to have to do that. So it's not a science, because if it was, you know, these NFL teams and these college teams would have it down, and they'd have an AI app and figure out how to figure out what the best quarterback is, but it doesn't work that way. There's so many intangibles in place, and I think the more you're around it, the more you see traits in certain guys that are aligned. And then when you work with them, you get a chance to see how they respond to different situations. There's a lot that goes to being a quarterback. There's an intellectual level that has to be at a certain point. There's a spatial intelligence. There's an emotional intelligence in dealing with players. There's, you know, processing of information. There's a resilience. There's just a lot that goes with it. And then there's the physical traits. So over time, you just start to, you know, see similarities, and sometimes you're wrong. And then you have to find the right person that's right for this school, this place, this program, because that's not always easy to find. Like I've said all the time, Ohio State's not for everybody, but Julian, I think in his mind has always felt like he wanted to play at a place like Ohio State, where he saw himself in that light. And I think that's part of the process of quarterbacks. Like they see what they want, and like they're just driven, and you can't tell them anything else. But this is what they're going to do, and it's not up for discussion, despite setbacks that are going to come along in the process. I can't quite explain that game. I know Nebraska had the same thing that happened last year, and then came in and played us all the way to the fourth quarter. So throw that film out. Don't even barely look at it, because to me that's not who we're playing. They, whatever it was in that game, it's an outlier. So we're going to look at the games that were played prior, what they did last year, what they've done in the last two games. Brett's again one of the better coaches in the country, and he's a resilient guy, and they're a resilient team. So I think it says a lot about them to rebound the way they did, get a win against USC, and then go play the way they did last week. So we all know that going through a tough loss can bring a bunch of people together. I think they've done that, and so we know we're going to get their best shot here on Saturday, and we're going to talk about that today, and you've got to have a great day of practice.
And you throw these completely different pictures at all. Just how that confusion happens, how those conversations work to make sure that the picture gets fuzzy.
Yeah, I think we're always trying to figure out a way to make it complicated for the other team, but simple for our guys. That's what coaching is all about. And there's a balance that you try to find of doing too much so that the guys aren't playing fast, but doing enough that keeps them off balance. And we have to have in all three phases, different things that you can't just get narrowed in on. Coaches are too good nowadays. They'll exploit. If you see a weakness or you see a tendency, they're going to be all over that. But then, if you don't have tendencies, that means you're not very good at anything. And that's what we're all trying to figure out as coaches. And when we identify, how a team's trying to attack us, then we try to make adjustments, just like any program does. They come over to the sideline and then at halftime. But you got to credit the players. They're the ones that are actually doing it on the field. It's one thing to have an idea or have an adjustment, but it's another thing to put it on the field. And so when you have guys like Caleb and Sonny and Arvell and IGB and Kenyatta and Caden who have played football enough and seen it, they have sort of a Rolodex of plays that they can recall to get back to, and then communicate that to the other guys on the defense. So that's the sign of a mature team, when you can make adjustments but can actually execute them on the field. I think it's more about the work Josh is putting in on a daily basis. This is a guy who plays center and plays guard, and just goes to work every day, and you just watch the way he plays. We do some ones on twos on ones, and when you watch our second group go out there and play in the game, they kind of, we've seen it before, they go out 3 and out. It's like, okay, these guys went down the field, and I thought that was a good sign just for the overall culture of the team, that we're competing against each other, a lot of good on good in practice. And when we see Josh out there, we just see a lot of good play, and just felt like he deserved an opportunity to get out there and play. We felt like he could go to center, but when you move the center around, there's a lot that goes with that, with Julian and the communication. So we wanted Josh to get some work at right guard, because we feel like he's earned that opportunity. Did great out too, but Tegra did as well, so that's all a good sign. So when guys deserve to be starters, whether it's at an offensive line or another position, we want to try to get them in the game. So we'll keep evaluating on a week-to-week basis. Distance, personnel, what the situation is. So the communication is really where that comes into play. But to me, they have to believe that the leader knows what he's doing and he can do his job. And then the last C is consistency. You got to do it day in and day out. And I think that's a big part of the command. And then at the line of scrimmage, having the body language, just the overall demeanor that I'm in charge of this thing. And he's growing every week with that. With that is confidence too, like knowing that you can do it.
Did you break camp expecting that was the case, or is that something where you have to see it against live bullets on film before you know for sure?
It's built over time. We saw certain things in practice that we were encouraged with, but you don't know till you're in game. Every time I hear somebody say, you guys are doing great or anything like that, like I just feel like we're getting set up. You know, that's just the way that I look at it as a coach, because I just feel like it's our job as coaches and leaders to make sure like guys understand that, you know, we say ignore the noise, you've heard that before, usually they're talking about adversity, guys. I'm using it right now with our guys, because all of a sudden, you know, everyone thinks, you know, you're the #1 team in the country and you've done all these things. We haven't done anything yet, we haven't accomplished a thing. And so the only thing that's gonna matter is who gets better week in, week out. And it's just easy nowadays because of the media, because of their phones, because of everything that comes with it. You can start reading press clippings and you can start feeling pretty good about yourself. And then all of a sudden, you know, you get knocked out, you know, realize it. So we cannot let that happen. And you know, the coaches and the leaders and all those guys are determined not to let that happen. But that's because it's not about the score, it's not about the opponent, it's about us and our training and our foundation, and that's gotta be the focus. It's the process over the results. And so, but the tricky thing is you gotta bring it every week. But these are still 18, 19, 20-year-old men, you know, they're young men, but, you know, they're not pros yet. Although, you know, the world's changing, we have to make sure that they understand that. And when you haven't been through that before, I talk to the guys all the time, there's wisdom, you know, and if you can just listen to the people that have been through it before, we have a lot of great coaches with great wisdom. And, you know, I suggest to our players all the time, ask them what it's like, because they've been through the ups and the downs and everything in between. And, you know, this is gonna be a long season, and we have to bring in every single team we play, including this team, who's a very good team, can knock you off if you're not on your game. And this has to be the best game we played all season, and that's the other part. It can't just be like what we did last week. The team we were last week is not gonna be good enough. We've gotta be better in a lot of areas. And if that's the approach, we're gonna have a chance. You know, to say that we haven't had that approach up to this point would not be true. I think we have, but we gotta keep pushing. And the minute, you heard me say that, the minute we think we've got this figured out, we're about to get it, and we can't be that way. Now, I have not seen that, so that's good, but we gotta stay on it at all times.
Accuracy and how quickly the ball comes out is certainly something I think we all can recognize is pretty special.
I think there's always areas for improvement. I think we're targeted in what we're doing. I think the guys are playing physical up front, and I think the running backs, every time they get a carry are learning, getting better. You're seeing yards after contact improve last week, which is an area of emphasis. So I think it's improving, and we know how important that's going to be, especially on a road environment like this.
You mentioned the 15-word paragraph long play calls. Guy sending those in is different this year. How would you evaluate how your offensive coordinator Brian Hartline is doing?
Yeah, he's doing great. You know, it's never easy when you're doing something for the first time, and I think you know he you know has been really efficient. He's prepared for the games. You know, he's got a good group around him. I think he understands that, and that's, we talk a lot about being, of course, not just calling the plays. It's all the organization leading up to that, which he's learning every day. But he's got a great group of guys around him. He understands that part of it, and you know, he knows at the end of the day it's about players, not plays, and you know all those things. And when you're doing everything for the first time, there's learning opportunities, which I give Brian a lot of credit for. Like, he's not somebody that, you know, gets defensive, or you know, he wants to learn. He has that growth mindset, which is similar to what we're talking about with the quarterbacks. I think that's why he's done so well just in life and in this game, is because you know he doesn't have a big ego when it comes to making a mistake. Once he makes a mistake, he's got to learn from it and grow from it, and so that's how you quickly get better at what you're doing. So still a long season to go, a lot of lessons to be learned, but you know, I think for a first-time coordinator, he's off to a great start. Starts with their feet, but a big part of it is the receivers. Those are long routes down the field, and you can only have so many of those within a week. Otherwise, you know, you just blow the doors off your wideouts. So it has to be efficient. There's a system about how we do it, but you got to give the wide receivers credit, because there's times where, you know, practice, they'll run the route and maybe the timing wasn't right, and they run back and the ball maybe, you know, is late or behind, but they've learned to understand that this is about building confidence in the quarterback too. And so they put it in during the week, man, like they do. And because of that, it's given us a chance during the week. But there's a lot that goes with throwing the ball down the field, the footwork, the timing, you know, all those things. And we work hard at it, but ultimately the player's got to make the plays.
All right, Coach, thank you.